What's up everyone, Ryan here on the Syntax Byte, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make a super awesome swipey recycler view. So in this video, basically what we're going to create is this app right here. We've got some list items and we can push them away, and when we do so we have the option to undo it. We got this super awesome background with this super awesome icon. We can swipe it from any side and we can undo it. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Okay, so to get started here, what I have is a simple recycler view with a few static list items. There's no swiping nonsense, but it is a simple recycler view with a few static items. My row is just a text view. So if you see here, I just have a text view, and that's all that we have set up so far. So if you're not sure how to even set up a recycler view, please go and check that out and kind of learn what that process is, and then come back to this video and we'll get back into the swipe to delete. But if you are at this point, you do know how to set up a basic recycler view, then let's just get straight into setting up swipe to delete. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is go over to your main activity or your fragment, or basically wherever you're setting your view adapter and your view manager. This is going to be the function where we are also going to set up our basic swipe to delete item, and that is going to be ItemTouchHelper callback. So we can go ahead and do this here. So we're going to want I'm going to do val, that's just a constant in Kotlin. We're not going to be reassigning this at all. So ItemTouchHelper callback equals object extending from ItemTouchHelper.callback, or sorry, not .callback, .simple callback. And to that we're going to pass 0 for drag directions. So what that is basically saying is that we don't want the list items to be able to be moved up and down within the list or reordered. We just want to have them be able to be swiped away. So swipe directions that we can do ItemTouchHelper.left, and then if you just wanted it to be able to be swiped left, you would leave it at that. But I'm also going to add or ItemTouchHelper.right. And if you're in Java, you'll want to change this or to the pipe character. So just so you know, it's a bitwise or, it's not a Boolean or. So in Java that's a pipe. In Kotlin, that's this word or. And okay, so we're gonna get this red flag here, and the way to fix that is just hit Alt Enter. It will tell you to implement members. It's gonna give you on move and on swiped, both good. Okay, so in terms of on move, this is only used for moving. Remember, we didn't specify any drag directions, so on move isn't really going to be used. So we can just go ahead and return false from that one. Sorry, that gets that taken care of. Now more interesting probably is the on swiped here, and this is what is going to happen. It's going to be called after the recycler view item was swiped away. So for some reason the IDE doesn't name these variables properly, so I'm just going to go ahead and put in view holder. So that's a reference to the view holder of the item that was swiped away, and again that is the view holder in the adapter here. So mine is going to be an instance of main view holder, as well as the position that the item was that it was swiped away. Perfect. So basically now in here what we need to do is we need to remove the item. Now you definitely can just manipulate the list inside of sort of your main activity or your fragment, and then notify the adapter that the items have changed. I like to handle everything entirely in the adapter. It makes it a little bit easier when we get into adding the undo functionality. So what I really want to be able to do is say view adapter dot remove item at position, and it's going to give me a red flag because we haven't created that method yet. So the next thing to do is let's create that method inside of our view adapter. And so I'm going to put it over my get item count. I'm going to say fun remove item, and we're going to actually take two things. We're going to take a view holder. No, we could just take one thing. So we'll just take that view holder, which is going to be an instance of main view holder. Okay. And so what we're going to do now is we can go ahead and say dataset, which I made a mutable list. So my dataset here is a mutable list. This only matters if you're in Kotlin. So if you're in Java, don't worry about it. But if you're in Kotlin, you will need a mutable list right here. That just means that we can change the list. So if it's not a mutable list, you won't be able to change it. And this is one of those cases where we do need to be able to change our list. So we want to do a dataset dot remove at view holder dot adapter position. Then we want to go notify item removed, again view holder dot adapter position. Okay. Now this is going to complain because we put position and we changed it to view holder, but also because we need to cast this as a main adapter. Just like that. It's complaining that this isn't necessarily a main view holder, which is true. We could cast it, but I'm just going to do RecyclerView.viewHolder. Perfect. So that should get everything looking fine and dandy. At this point, the next thing we have to do is take this ItemTouchHelper callback and attach it to our RecyclerView. So in order to do that, we're going to create an ItemTouchHelper object, not another callback, but an ItemTouchHelper object, pass it the callback, and then attach that object to the RecyclerView. So we can go ahead and say val ItemTouchHelper equals ItemTouchHelper item, and then we want to pass that ItemTouchHelper callback. Then we can do ItemTouchHelper dot attach to RecyclerView, and I'm going to pass RecyclerView. Note that my IDE here is giving me some information. It's saying that RecyclerView is from activity_main.xml. In Kotlin, nice little trick. You don't always have to do the find view by ID thing. I'm not quite sure how this works exactly, but they've implemented it that it can just find these IDs in some cases if it's obvious as to kind of what view they would be looking for the ID in. And just, you could just use the variable name. You don't ever actually need to initialize this variable. It's a little funky, but it's pretty handy. So just if you're in Java, you will need to do a view.findView by ID, r.id dot whatever it is, and pass that in there. So just something to keep in mind if you're not working in Kotlin. Okay, so with any luck, this has our basic functionality kind of implemented here. And so it's gone ahead and pulled that up. So we can now swipe away the chicken, it goes, the beef, it goes, the pork, it goes, the lamb, it goes, the fish, it goes. Awesome. Except for we have no way to get them back other than open the app. So the next thing we'll go ahead and do here is implement the swipe to undo, or the swipe to delete with the undo, undo features, so that we can actually get these back if we accidentally swipe away the wrong one. So in order to do that, that's where having this remove item function in your adapter becomes kind of handy instead of doing everything in your activity. So I'm going to put up here two private variables. We're going to have removed position. It's going to be an integer. We can initialize it as 0, and private variable removed item. It's going to be a string, but if you weren't working with just a list of strings, as I am in this simple example, you can make this whatever kind of object you wanted. So what I'm going to do before we remove those items is I'm going to cache the item and the position it was at. So we can go ahead and do removed position equals view holder dot adapter position, and we can say removed item equals view holder, or sorry, not view holder. We want data set at view holder dot adapter position. So that way, the most recently deleted string will be stored in removed item. And again, if you're not using simple strings, you can still store the item in kind of whatever object format you're using. So that will store the most recently deleted one. But now they still actually have no way to get that back. We've stored it in memory, but that's no use to anyone really if they can't access it. So we need to provide the user interface for this and put it back onto the list. So in order to do that, what we can do is we can do a snackbar dot make. We can do view holder dot item view as our view. We can do character sequence. I'm going to say removed item deleted. We can do a duration. I'm going to do snackbar dot length long. We probably don't want to do short. You don't want the little snack bar to disappear too early on anyone. You also probably don't want to leave it up there for the entire time that the app's running or until they delete another item. Most people will expect it to go away eventually, but you want to make sure that you give them some time to kind of decide whether maybe it was a mistake to delete that item. So that's where length long is perfect. Next, we want to go ahead and do a set action. And so what we can do is the text. I'm going to do undo in all caps, and then we're going to give it our listener. Now, you will note here with Kotlin, again, a little bit of a weird thing going on if you're used to Java. This outside brackets, the lambda, is actually part of this function call. It would go after a comma there. Again, this is how Kotlin kind of operates. It's a little strange, but I just wanted to point that out in case you're like, this code looks really weird. I'm not sure. You can use a regular lambda there. But in our action, what do we want to do inside of our action? Well, we want to add back that item. So the first thing that we need to do is add it into our data set. So we can say dataset.add at index removed position. Remember, we saved the index, and then removed item, the string we want to add back. Then we can do notify item inserted at position. And basically what these notify item removed and notify item inserted calls do is, yes, they tell RecyclerView update stuff, but by being specific about whether it was inserted or removed and just not just saying like notify data set changed, it allows RecyclerView to play the correct animation. So you could also say just notify data set changed, but you wouldn't get the fancy animations that come with these method calls. So I just thought I'd point that out as well. So now, oops, sorry, we do have to do a .show on this snack bar. It's a sneaky little thing. I always forget to do that, but now that we've done a .show, we should be able to restore the items now. So if we go back into here, we'll delete beef, beef deleted, and we should expect it to show up in the middle, and it does. Pork, pork deleted, undo. Lamb, lamb deleted, undo. Pork again. There's fish. There's chicken. Of course, we can't undo multiples, so if we do a quick chicken, fish, we'll get fish deleted, and we can only get fish back. But that's kind of just how this user interface flow operates. It's pretty standard across Android, so it's really nothing to worry about. But I just thought I'd point that out as well. It's kind of how she goes. So, awesome. The last thing that we want to do to add a little bit of polish on this user experience is it's not really obvious what's happening with this item when they remove it. So for instance, if they remove something in the Gmail client, it might be deleted, it might be archived. So there's usually a little background or something showing up with a little bit of red or green or blue or yellow, kind of dependent on the action, along with a little icon. So we're going to go ahead and add that in now. Now there's a couple of different ways to do this, but probably the easiest way is to directly modify on draw in the ItemTouchHelper callback. Another way is to modify on draw and send it only to part of your layout. So you have like another layout behind your layout, in your row item, and then only send the draw call to the foreground. And if you only send the draw call from the ItemTouchHelper to that, then only the foreground room will move and the other one will appear like behind it. Google has a bit of documentation on this, but they're not really specific as to what the best method is. In our case, we're just going to, inside of onDraw, draw a rectangle in the area where the item is no longer there with a solid color and then put an icon on it. So that's kind of the way I've seen most commonly done on the internet. Google aren't super specific about it themselves, so it's a little bit tough to tell. If nothing I'm saying makes sense, that's totally okay. We're going to dive into it in about 3 seconds here. But I just wanted to point that out if anyone's maybe seen another method. There is kind of two main methods about going with this, and they each have their own kind of advantages and disadvantages. Today I'm going to show you the more common method that I think is easier to understand, but your mileage may vary. So you might want to try a couple different ways of doing this and see what works best for your mind and your app. Alright, let's go ahead and dive in. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is override onChildDraw. So this is an optional override. We don't need to override this, but we can go ahead and do onChildDraw. And we are going to leave that super call in there, but we're going to do a little bit of drawing before that happens. So what we can go ahead and do up here is we're going to introduce our color drawable. So we can do a private var color drawable, I'm just gonna say, or we could say, I guess, swipe background might make more sense. It's gonna be a color drawable, and it's gonna be a color drawable, and we pass that a color. So you can do color.parseColor, and then I'm just gonna do a simple red. So that would be FF0000. That's the most simple red that there is. So there we go. So that's our color drawable. That's what we want to use to draw in the space. So one thing that is noteworthy is that we did allow the user to swipe left or right, and that is going to change the side on which we want this rectangle to be drawn. So what we are going to need to do is say if dx is greater than 0, and then we'll have the corresponding else clause, and this is going to change our positioning logic for our rectangle. So again, we are drawing a rectangle, and I am just going to make ItemView view holder.ItemView. Now this refers to the item view of the item that has just been swiped, and we are going to use it for our positioning logic. So basically what we're saying is that if dx is greater than 0, the user is going to have swiped right. So dx is like the displacement x, and of course x is the horizontal axis within the screen. So I don't know how much graphics programming experience you guys have, and if it's not a lot, don't worry about it. But basically when we're talking about dx, it's kind of how far, you know, one way or the other has the item been pushed to the side, and that's going to determine basically where we need to draw our little rectangle. So basically it's going to be positive if I push it from this way and negative if I push it from this way. So that's how that kind of all goes down. So if dx is positive, we'll start with, we want to do color drawable, or sorry, not color drawable, typed it like that in my notes, but we chose to go with swipe background, and we can do a set bounds call on it. And so basically what this is we're saying, what are the bounds of the rectangle? Where is the top, or sorry, in this case we're doing greater than 0. So our top left point of this rectangle is going to be right here, right on this corner of the item, always, no matter how far we pushed it, and our bottom right corner is going to be kind of right to the edge of where we pushed it, right here, and we're going to draw a rectangle in between those 2 points. And so what we want to do is with the left, we can go ahead and set that to ItemView.left, right? Very simple. It's just going to be right on the left here. As far as we want this to be the top left corner, of course not the bottom left corner, so we can also do ItemView.top. Again, very simple. Our next coordinate is where things can get a little bit tricky. Since dx is positive, we don't need to add it to anything. The length of our rectangle is going to be dx. So we can go ahead and do dx. It's going to come to us as a float. We want an integer, so just dx.toInt, and that's going to get that done. And then we need ItemView.bottom. So basically we're specifying 2 points. Again, the top left corner and the bottom right corner. So hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, just try and think about it a few different ways and give it some time to sink in. If we're not swiping right, we're obviously swiping left. So in that case, we're going to set the bounds a little bit differently than if we had swiped right. So first of all, we're going to set our right corner here, our bottom right corner, to be ItemView.right. And by the way, this item view is like the whole view, so it doesn't matter if you're swiping, the item view thing stays the same, as if like it doesn't move while you're swiping. That's dx and dy. The item view stays the same. So we're gonna have item view right, item view bottom. Really simple. In that case, item view top, yes, because it's gonna be the top corner. Then we're gonna say item view right plus dx.toInt. So like I mentioned, dx is going to be less than 0 if we're in this, and when we swipe it this way, dx actually goes less than 0. So remember that if we add a negative integer, we're going to get a lesser positive integer, right? So we're going to take the right, and then we're going to add this displacement, which is going to be negative, so it's going to end us up like somewhere back here, depending on how far we swiped. So that's kind of the positioning logic for the swipe background. Finally, we need to go ahead and tell it to actually draw it after we've set the bounds. So we can simply do swipe background dot draw on C. C is our canvas, so that's just passed into the draw method here. So now that we've done all of this, it should work. Should end up with a nice little red background. And we do, right? So it doesn't matter which way I swipe it, really nice red background coming in here. But just to put the finishing touch on this user experience here, we can go ahead and add a little icon. So the best place to get icons is going to be material.io. So you can go here for the icons. And you can use all of these for Android, by the way. This is the official material icons. I'm not sure where the delete one is. Right here. So we can go ahead and grab that icon. We can grab it in SVG form. That's okay. It's gonna be just fine. So we can go ahead and do a quick save file on that. Then what you want to do is you want to go into your drawable, go new vector asset, go ahead and find it there. Mine's in my downloads. I'm gonna do delete. Next. Oh, I forgot to delete it from last time. Sorry about that, guys. But anyway, there's my delete icon. Did use this project for testing purposes. Okay, so let's go ahead and draw that in as well. So what we want to do is, first of all, we need to actually set up this delete icon to be kind of in the thing. So we can go ahead and do private late init var, probably better. Set it up in our onCreate. So we can go ahead and do a delete icon here is going to be equal to context compat.getDrawable. We're going to pass a context. In this case, it's going to be this, the activity. But remember, if you're in a fragment, things might look a little bit different. And we can do r.id, or sorry, r.drawable. Drawable IC delete. And we are going to hit that with bang bang. As in, we are going to trigger a null pointer exception if that icon doesn't exist. But we should get pretty much no issue. So the next thing we want to do is we want to know the difference between the height of our icon and the height of our list view, so that we can position it central in a vertical fashion. So what we can go ahead and do here is say that icon height is going to be equal to view holder, or sorry, we already cached that, item view dot height minus delete icon dot intrinsic height, and that is going to get us our difference. And we actually don't need to do icon height. What we do need to know is the icon margin, right? How much is going to be on each side. So we can do that, and then we're just going to divide that by 2. So that's our icon margin. That's the distance between the top of this and the top of the icon and the bottom of the icon and the bottom of the list view. So that's that. And again, we're going to set the bounds. So for this, we can do delete icon dot set bounds. We're going to do item view dot left again for the positive here, swiping from the right towards, or sorry, from the left towards the right. We're going to do plus the icon margin, okay? So we are going to move that down just a little bit. Now, for the top, again, we can keep it item view dot top plus icon margin. From the right, this is where things get a little bit tricky. So this is where we're going to say that we're going to take it from the left, plus we're going to add that margin that we had, icon margin, plus we're going to add delete icon dot intrinsic width. So it's going to be the width of the icon plus the margin from the side, starting at the side. So that gets a little complex. And then on the bottom, of course, we're going to have item view dot bottom minus the icon margin again. And just to make this look a little simpler, we might just go ahead and do that. So setting the bounds for the one on the right is going to be kind of similar. So we're going to do for the left, the item view dot right minus the margin minus the width of the icon. For the top there, the margin is fine. For the right, we're going to do item view dot right minus the margin. Sorry, minus the margin. And for the bottom, we can go ahead and do the icon view minus the icon margin. So now we can go ahead and test it, and it will look pretty good, but we will have a pretty noteworthy bug. And I'm going to show you how to fix that bug, but I just want to kind of show you what the bug is before we go fixing it, so you understand kind of what is this bug and where does it come from. So we can go ahead and swipe it. Nothing happens. And the reason that nothing happens is that we never drew the icon. So that wasn't the bug I was trying to demonstrate. But we can go ahead and try this again, just real quick. Okay, so we can see that it's pretty good, but the icon actually shows up on both sides, oddly enough, and it shows up actually on top of the item here, which is pretty weird. So if I swipe the icon halfway, the icon's like showing up. If I swipe it like that, it's like covering up the text. It's pretty funky. So it doesn't really look like it's under the thing. It's actually over the thing, which isn't what we want. So there is a neat little way I found out to fix this. So what we can go ahead and do is say that if dx is greater than 0, we're swiping from the right, we can do c.clipRect, and this is going to actually clip our canvas, so it won't draw outside of this area. It will just clip anything that's drawn outside of that area. And we can set this clipRect to be the same rect that we actually used for our swipe background. So if we can just go ahead and copy this positioning logic, and then we can go else, and do again a c.clipRect, set those bounds, and this should fix the issue. The one thing that we will want to do before we go ahead and modify that clipRect, we don't want to make changes to the canvas permanently, so we can do a c.save, go ahead and draw our icon, and do a c.restore, because keep in mind we're passing this canvas to the super method. So when we pass that canvas, we don't want it to be not allowing the proper drawing procedures and clipping stuff that shouldn't be clipped. We just want it to clip our stuff inside the method. So that's why they have canvas save and canvas restore. Allows us to really quickly set the clipRect, draw our thing, make sure it doesn't look like it's over anything, and then go ahead and undo that change. So now what we should have, guys, is an amazing looking swipey recycler view. And we do. It looks pretty freaking awesome. Really good job done, guys. The one last thing I'll show you how to do here is change that icon to be white. So you can just go in here, and where it says path fill color, just make it white. That's really it. So I hope you guys really enjoyed watching this video. Again, I'm Ryan on the Syntax Byte. We got lots more great content coming for you guys in the future, so do go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you're not looking at subscribing right now, but you did enjoy the video and it did help you out, please leave a comment letting me know that. I'd love to get you guys' feedback, and leave a like on the video. If you notice any inaccuracies or still need help making a nice swipey recycler view, don't be afraid to leave a comment on the video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.